Well, we have a torched legacy by a famous Hall of Fame coach. We have the official signing of a transfer portal player into the program, and we have a veteran player or a returning player who has announced he will come back for the 23-24 season. Mountaineer Paul and I are going to talk about it right here on this live show, right after we give you a quick word from our sponsor. Guys, we ask that you please go over support our sponsor over at DutchMillerAuto.com. Paul, can you tee that up for me, dude? Because I'm not able to pull it up on my end. I'm having
Yeah,
problems here.
no worries.
Sorry, guys.
Do you want me to start, buddy?
Yeah, go ahead.
This episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time.
With brands like
With
Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for.
Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
And guys, don't forget, they also have locations in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I know there are a lot of WVU fans in Charlotte, North Carolina, guys. Big alumni base down there. If you're one of those people who happen to be watching, go check out their location there in Charlotte. They also have a location in Bristol, Tennessee. So if you're anywhere in the Tri-Cities area, Johnson City, Bristol, Kingsport, Southwest Virginia, Abingdon, go check out the location in Bristol, Tennessee. And they also have a location in El Dorado, Kansas. Uh, Kind of an odd location considering it's kind of far west, but hey, it's right in the middle of Big 12 country, baby. So we
It's
love it.
in Big 12 country.
That's right, man. So go check it out in El Dorado, Kansas, Dutch Miller Automotive. Now, we got a lot to talk about, guys. A lot of moving pieces around the Mountaineer basketball program. I mean, and let's start off with obviously the big story, and that's the latest news surrounding Bob Huggins. And we all know um, that he put out, or his lawyer put out a statement the other day saying, and we covered this on a separate show. Hey, he did not actually resign. He wants his job back, and I'm obviously, that's the miniature version. Well, Hugs put out his own statement a few days later, basically giving his version of the event, saying he didn't sign anything. He talked to the team, yada yada. Basically told them he didn't want to quit coaching or whatever, according to him. And I'm paraphrasing, by the way. I don't have it in front of me, but in a nutshell, basically, Paul, and you can tell, correct me if I'm wrong here, but what he and his lawyers are basically trying to say is that I did not officially sign a resignation letter. The only resignation we got is the email from my wife's email account. It wasn't his email account, and it was not a signed document. And his lawyers are trying to say, hey, he didn't sign a resignation, so he didn't resign. The school came back and put out this really long rebuttal, piece by piece, basically saying we got it from his wife's email because he asked us if we could use that as his official resignation, and they agreed. He went as far as to clean out his office. Apparently, this is all according to West Virginia University. This is their side of the story. Okay, I want to be fair. He cleaned out his office. Apparently, he had a phone conversation with assistant AD of basketball Steve Urias. Told him he was resigning, according to West Virginia. He had conversations with Ren Baker, according to West Virginia, about his resignation, and his former attorney even had conversations with West Virginia, reportedly, about his benefits package and the retirement paperwork, for lack of a better term. So, I mean, I kind of try to give the summarized version of this story here. Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, it's just a mess of a situation, man. He's already had Bob Fitzsimmons, a wheeling-based lawyer, said,
Mhm.
"No, I'm out. Want nothing to do with this anymore." And so you kind of in this situation, you can follow the money, and it'll point you basically where you need to go at every turn. Um, and there's a lot of money at stake here potentially, depending on the rulings and everything that comes down. Is he resigned? Is he retired? Is he fired? Is he not? He even went as far as to say the university was in error, which I thought was, people said he's delusional. I don't know. I don't want to go that far, but I will say um, I've been pretty surprised at some of his behavior. But I was talking with somebody today earlier. If you're put on a pedestal for as long as he's been on a pedestal and guys like him, I think you do have this air of invincibility about you, and when something happens, the acceptance portion of it is going to be the last portion of it to come.
Mhm.
Before and I think legally he's looking at this saying, look, it's my wife's email. She could have sent it. Uh, I don't know about that. All I'm saying is you don't have anything official, and so here's just where we are. I don't think he really believes he's going to get this job back. If he does, um, then he really is delusional because the odds of it happening are extremely low. Whether I want him to or not, is aside from the fact of whether the university is going to give him a job, and then not turn around and fire him thereafter.
Yeah.
Um, we do have a super chat here.
Yeah. I was going to let you finish, and then we were going to address it. But Jacob, Yoho, man, you never fail, man, fellas, man. Jacob Yoho, $5 super chat. He says, "I have a question for Paul. Is WVU still looking for players?"
Depends on what sport you're talking about. I'm guessing the basketball channel. You're talking basketball. Yes, yes, you're still looking for players, several players. You've got to fill out this roster. This would be a nice segue into Jeremiah Bembry. Um, but as of right now, Jeremiah Bembry is the only player that's been officially signed, and that as of about within the last hour or so, it's been official. A lot of tweets coming out about that. Josh Eilert, a lot of people talking about that situation. If you don't care, Couz, I'll go ahead and break down Bembry just a little bit for everybody.
Sure.
Bembry's a left-handed point guard. It's really a combo guard. He can play either the one or the two. He's extremely long and athletic, 6'9" wingspan. He's a kid that likes to get to the rim. He's still developing as a shooter. Wouldn't say he's what Emmett Matthews was early in his career, is what he reminds me of. Similar skill set, similar slashing ability, similar athleticism as far as dunking. He's getting off the floor quick. He's got a really gets off the floor really quick, which is probably going to make him a really productive rebounder. But his jumper is definitely coming along. He wasn't a dynamic scorer in high school by any means. He averaged right around 14 points a game in high school, but the potential is there, and that's what Florida State was betting on.
Mhm.
Now he's had a year in the Power Five. He's seen how a Power Five organization is run. Florida State's a pretty good one. They've been good the last 7 to 8 years in basketball, and now he's going to come to West Virginia where the standard is pretty high as well, and he's going to be surrounded by a lot of good players, and he's going to be expected to back up Kirk Risa right away. So he's going to have to grow up and hopefully be productive for us right out the shoot.
Yeah. And here's the official
But
announcement.
yes,
This article is from Mountaineer Maven on Fan Nation, which is a Sports Illustrated an affiliate of Sports Illustrated, and it's written by Skylar Callahan. Most of you probably know Skylar. He's covered West Virginia for quite a while now. But it says Wednesday afternoon, West Virginia head coach Josh Eilert announced that Florida State guard Jeremiah Bembry has signed with the program. And here's what Bembry had to say, or Eilert had to say about Bembry. "I love the versatility and the size that Jeremiah will bring to the point guard position. He's an outstanding ball handler who can lead the break, penetrate, and shoot. He's a very athletic left-handed guard who will fit in well into our defensive schemes with his tremendous length. Jeremiah is a high-character student athlete who comes from a great family. We are excited to have him join our Mountaineer basketball program." The article goes on to say Bembry is a native of Brooklyn, New York. Another one of those New York guys, man. Played his high school ball at Executive Education Academy in Allentown, PA. And as a senior, he averaged 14.1 points per game. So, yeah, really good piece. Really needed depth at the point guard position. And what I really like is the fact that he has 4 years of, obviously, other than the measurables, he has 4 years of eligibility remaining. So, he could, assuming, so a lot of it could determine how things play out with the coaching situation. But, he could be here for the long haul. But and let's keep in mind now the NCAA claims they're going to crack down on these transfers and are not going to allow people to transfer as many times, even if it's over a coaching change. So, he could be here for the long haul. Let's hope so. I'm sure he knew what he was getting into. He understands the situation at West Virginia. How can he not, right? It's all over the news.
He's a low risk, high reward player.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, big news. Of all the bad news that's been going on surrounding this program, there has been some good news. Some more good news. We'll get back to talking about Huggins in a minute, but we want to talk about some more good news. That is another guard, Seth Wilson, a player I'm really high on, has announced that he will remain with the program for the next season. And he announced that via his Twitter account yesterday. I think it was yesterday, Paul. Is that correct? I'm getting my days mixed up, man.
Yesterday, the day before.
Yeah.
It's one of the last 2 days.
But just to touch real quick, just to give you guys an idea, Seth Wilson, for those of you who may not know, and I don't have his high school stats in front of me, I was unable to find them, to be honest, but I've heard that his stats in high school were basically really close to the same. And he went to Lorraine High School, which was the same high school LeBron James went to. And they say he had about the same stats as LeBron James did in high school. So that's how good of a player he was at the high school level. At West Virginia, last year he averaged about 13 minutes a game, averaged 4.2 points, shot 41.5% from three, though. That's really where he came in and was a really big help to this team. And he actually was tied. I was looking it up before we jumped on here. He was actually tied for the highest three-point shooting percentage in the Big 12. Now, he won't show up in the record books, the Big 12 record books, because he didn't take as many shots. He only attempted about 82 shots, whereas the person who he was tied with, L.J. Cryer from Baylor, shot the ball 193 threes. So he shot, over 100 more threes than Seth did, but still 41.5% shooting, even on 80-some attempts. That's really good shooting. And so we're going to need that shooting this coming season, especially with Eric Stevenson being gone. And I'll be honest with you, there was a couple games last year where I thought Seth Wilson should have gotten more minutes. I think back to one game late in the year, Paul. I think it might have even been in the Big 12 tournament. Eric had a terrible game. West Virginia was not playing well. They sent Eric to the bench. Seth Wilson came in the game, hit 2 or 3 really big three-pointers for us. And West Virginia ended up, I think, catching up to their opponent or even going ahead. I don't remember all the details, but they actually played better with Seth Wilson on the floor that game. They brought Eric Stevenson back in and ended up losing the game. So, and you may remember the game and opponent and everything better than I do. I know you have a great memory, a lot better than mine. But and I was actually frustrated with Hugs because I felt like Hugs should have left Eric on the bench and left Seth Wilson in the game because the team was playing better and he was making shots. And Eric wasn't hitting his shots in that game. But I remember several games last year where Seth Wilson hit really big shots for West Virginia. They needed a basket. They needed a spark. They were in scoring droughts. He'd come in and boom, he'd knock down a big three. So I think this is a big win for West Virginia, bigger than people are probably giving it credit for, especially considering the circumstances and everything that's going on. What do you have to say about this decision?
Well, it's a good decision. Just in an era where money is important. Don't get it wrong. We love money on this channel. Everybody loves money. I think that gets kind of lost in all these kids get bashed for doing what a lot of us would probably do. But it is nice to see somebody. He said it was all for love, and he put the gold and the blue hearts up. And that's gonna, for a guy like me, man, that's like yeah. I love him too, and I think he knows he's a West Virginia guy, in an era when that's just not something you see a ton. And really excited to have Seth back for this year. He's a needed part of the core that's returning. Not very many of those guys left now, and hopefully we can move forward from all this, because I think we've got about 5 days left of this window. If you extend on 2 days, which you have 48 hours or something along those lines to announce that you've been in the portal, we can all finally take a deep breath and realize, okay, this is what we have.
Yeah. I like this comment here from Cole D. He says Seth Wilson using a Jay-Z song from the Black album made him one of my favorite players. Pretty sure he wasn't even alive when that album dropped. LOL.
About to kick my phone over just now.
All right, man.
Sorry.
Cole D, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a rap guy, so I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, obviously I know who Jay-Z is, so I'm not that out of touch, but I'm not familiar with that album. Paul, you might be. I don't know.
What album did he bring
Black
up?
album by Jay-Z.
Oh.
The song he played in his announcement on Twitter was a song from that album, Cole says.
Oh, okay.
I'm a rock and metal guy, so
I mean, any rap that I listen to is not that Jay-Z is by any way new, but when I was growing up, I listened to Bone Thugs and Harmony, a lot of the '90s stuff.
Mm-hmm. Gene says, "Thanks, we need another couple of more forwards and another big. Any rumors about who might be coming and filling those roles?"
They're really keeping it close to the vest because they don't want to run anybody else off, is what I'm hearing. And I guess I'll just use this to segue right into another topic. Jose Perez's status is obviously up in the air. There are a lot of people in the know that think that there's a really good chance he returns. Say what you will about his antics as a drama queen or whatever, however you want to label it. I'll keep my opinion to myself on that one. But what I do know is that he can play. And how good he's going to be in the Big 12 is yet to be seen. He is a little bit of an unproven commodity at the highest level, although I did go and look up. He does average double figures against Power 5 competition in his career. That includes North Carolina, South Carolina, teams like that. He had a bad game against Utah, 6 points. But overall, he's played well, and that's really what we need him to be anyway. 12, 13, 14 points a game would be great. But he's also going to be key to a player in the portal that has not been named. All I know is he is connected to somebody out there. And this is confirmed through a guy that's connected and that's in the media that doesn't want to be named, unfortunately. But Jose's connected to somebody in the portal that we don't know, or I don't know anyway. Maybe you guys do. That if he comes back, we have a higher likelihood of getting this player. Now, I don't even know if this is a good player, a mediocre player, it's a role player. I have no idea. But if he stays, that's a starting spot filled and possibly another player that comes along with him. So you kind of take the good with the bad in that situation. The social media presence that he has and everything, I think a lot of people view as a negative thing with him. But he's been through a lot. And I was going over this with somebody yesterday. If you don't know, Steve Wojciechowski at Marquette was fired when he was there, replaced by Shaka Smart. He then went to another school for a year or two, then transferred again, or maybe it was the other way around. I'm getting confused on it. But
Gardner-Webb, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Gardner-Webb, but I couldn't remember if Marquette was before or after.
Yeah, I don't know.
Really matter.
I think it was before, but I don't know for sure either.
Yeah. So then, obviously, he lands in Manhattan. Steve Masiello is fired. Literally 2 weeks before the season started, they had already practiced technically together as a team. Hence the reason he wasn't able to play last year with the Eric Stevenson squad. And so you get into this year and you think, okay, finally he's going to have a decent year, off season and everything. No, Bob Huggins thing happens. So think what you will about Jose, but he's been through a heck of a lot for a college kid, and really, rightfully, should have transferred almost the majority of the times that he did. People say you play for university and not coaches, and I get that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I can also understand from his side what's going on there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think and I've heard that saying too, and I get it, but at the same time, who your coach is makes a huge impact on your quality of life when you're at college. I mean, especially if you're going to be there for 4 years, especially, or even if you're an upperclassman and you're trying to get to the league or play professional ball. I mean, who your coach is can make or break you, man, as far as your career potentially. If they're not a fit to what they're trying to do schematically, or maybe your personalities don't fit, or you don't fit with the culture of the team, whatever, that stuff matters. So I'm not I hear that, but at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with it. The coach is a big deal. Tosh
Especially
Miller,
in
man.
college basketball.
Yeah, Tosh Miller. I'm with you, man. I like the Angus Young profile pic there. He says he thinks Jose will be our leading scorer. Definitely our key player to make his own shot under contact, assuming he stays.
He's got the potential to be.
Yeah. John Kelly says he thinks when the dust settles, he will make a bowl in football and make the big dance in basketball. Man, that would be, after all we've been through this offseason, that would probably be a win, in my opinion.
Hey, some other good news heard today at Big, or not today, it might have been yesterday on Stick 'em 365, those guys.
Mm-hmm.
They had a guy on that was talking about brand value in the Big 12.
Right.
I almost did a video on it because it made me so happy to hear it. He was talking about, as far as brand value in the Big 12, there are two schools that stick out among everybody else, with obviously the exodus of Oklahoma and Texas. BYU and West Virginia are the two brands, and he even said that I think he said we even outshine BYU just a little bit, or it was the other way around, one of the two. But I thought that was pretty cool, good news. Even though he said whether you're 3-9 or 9-3, BYU and West Virginia pretty much remain the same in brand value because of us. Look at everything that's going on with our program right now and the showings we get week after week on the show. And we're a smaller show. We're not nothing huge,
Right.
And you guys show up for us 200-300 at a time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny you were talking about that. I was actually just DMing Sam Bradshaw, the guy who did that piece today, or just like an hour ago, asking him to come on my show and talk about that same exact topic. You and I are great minds think alike, brother. But he said he would love to do it, but he's getting ready to have his third kid, so his schedule's a little crazy for the next few weeks. But he did send me several links and articles. He actually wrote an article about it today. I haven't had a chance to read it yet because we're doing this, but it may be a show that maybe it's one you and I do together. I don't know, but we'll talk about it. But
may as well now. Well, but the thing is,
I find that kind of stuff extremely interesting.
Me too.
I get so many comments. Sorry, man, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but I get so many comments under videos. West Virginia's not that valuable. We need to just kick them out. I mean, just all kinds of garbage. And if there is data upon data out there to show that is not true. And I mean, I don't care what metric you look at. I don't care whether you're looking at Tony Altimore's metrics, whether you're looking at Sam Bradshaw's metrics or anybody else's metrics. They all show that West Virginia is a valuable brand. I don't care from what angle you want to spin it. It's there, and the proof is there. And I'm looking forward to reading this stuff, man. And
nobody's saying that they're the most valuable brand.
No.
Nobody's saying that. But we're not the least valuable brand either, and we add value almost to any situation. Mm-hmm. I guess if you want to talk about maybe the SEC or the Big Ten at this point, I don't think we would take money from that situation, although because they would have to split the pie another way. In that way, I guess we would. But negatively, we don't take away from most situations we go into.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't want to give us that credit for whatever reason. But the following that we have on Twitter, just last year, Fox Sports named us the #1 following on Twitter in the Big 12, the new Big 12. Maybe actually, I think it included Oklahoma and Texas at the time. which is kind of hard to believe, but we show up.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So yeah, I can't wait to read that article he wrote today, and then also break down some of the links that he sent me. And hopefully I'll be able to get him on the show at some point. I don't want to bother him if he's got family stuff. You know, I'm gonna be on vacation next week. Uh, Speaking of which, the guys, you may not see my face next week, so uh, you have to look at Paul next week. You get a break from me, but
That's bad.
no, it ain't. Not for them. They get a break, but no, it's. I can't wait to read the links and stuff. But hopefully, I can get Sam on. You know, one of us can get Sam on a show at some point in the future. But and he can break that stuff down for us. But yeah, I'm not going to try to bug the guy if he's has a baby coming.
Maybe you guys can help Couz and I out in the comments below. Pretend like you're a content creator for a second and try to come up with a video for West Virginia football. Realize the roster's been talked about up and down for months. There's been no transfers in for months. There's really very little depth chart movement at all. Neil Brown is as quiet as a church mouse. He never gets in any trouble. Like there's nothing. Like I'm serious. Like I was digging into stuff today. I'm thinking they're not going to watch this because like there is so little to go on right now for football videos.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild, man.
It is.
That's why me and Couz ran into the same topic like we did because there's just so little out there.
Yeah, and anytime I'm listening to any show, reading, if West Virginia pops up, my ears perk up because I'm like, ooh, I need ideas, right? Which is really what we're supposed to be doing anyway as creators, but it's even more so this time of year. But now West Virginia, we all know Big 12 Media Days is going on right now for football, and West Virginia's section is tomorrow. Neil Brown will be speaking to the media. There are 5 players that will be speaking to the media. I don't know. I know. I think it's Aubrey Burks, Zach Frazier, Wyatt Milam, or no, not Wyatt Milam. Doug Nestor, Zach Frazier, Aubrey Burks, and a couple more. I'm
the middle linebacker,
Lee Koba.
Yep.
And do you know who the other one is off the top of your head?
Sean Martin.
I think you're right. I think it might be Sean Martin. But anyway, there's 5 guys that will be speaking at media days tomorrow. No quarterback, but I mean, who you gonna send if you haven't picked a starter yet, right?
If you send somebody, then you've given away your starter.
Exactly. And that's how
send Sean Boyle.
Even if he knows in the back of his mind who it's going to be, he's not going to send him.
That'd be funny if I was Neil Brown as a joke. I would send Boyle.
Liquid Coast is clickbait and provocative. Create the hype and people will buy in. We try, man. We try.
That's what Gold and Blue Dude was so very good at.
Cole, what did you not send, man? I don't know what you're referring to. He says he's more interested in Hoops from the Heels input. LOL.
That's fine. We're good for that too.
GBD sure brought the eyeballs, whether or not people agreed with him, and more people heard about WV Sports. Yeah, I was actually talking to Joey last night, John, and he and I hadn't talked to Joey in weeks, but he and I talked last night. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw it. I saw he put something on Facebook or somewhere the other. He got robbed at gunpoint or something at some point. I didn't even get a chance to talk to him about that, but nonetheless, we got to talking about Golden Blue Dude, man, and just brought back some memories. So thanks for mentioning that, John. I appreciate it. But
never get over how young he passed.
No, man, he was younger than me. He was 40, I believe, 40 or 41, somewhere in there. But yeah, with basketball, let's get back to the Huggins thing real quick. I want to elaborate on that a little bit more. I mean, we kind of gave the latest on the saga is what's happening. Huggins is firing lawyers, or lawyers are dropping out. I have a lawyer contact of mine who I've been messaging with, and he's telling me he knows. He doesn't know the lawyer out of Cleveland that's now representing Hugs on this contract matter or whatever, but he does know the other 2, including Fitzsimmons, the one who apparently is no longer representing Hugs, but was representing him previously. And he says they're not the type of lawyers to be involved in these in any type of frivolous lawsuits or any case that they don't have a chance to win or they think's frivolous or ludicrous or whatever word you want to use. They're not going to be involved. He says they won't be involved in it. They're just not that type of guys. So I don't know if Fitzsimmons left and quit Huggins or if Huggins fired him. Who knows? We don't know. It obviously didn't say in the letter. He just said he's no longer representing him. But
right.
Says Rocky wouldn't turn. Yeah, Rocky's actually I think he represents West Virginia in a lot of things too. So you're right. He's not going to burn that bridge, right? That would be stupid. So apparently Hugs is now leaning on the lawyer out of Cleveland. I think his last name's Campbell. I guess to fight his battle for him here and take this case on if they go to court, whether they're looking for a settlement, whatever they're trying to achieve here. It's going to be up to the guy out of Cleveland. John Christophic, and I hope I got your name right, John. If I didn't, I apologize. Bob Huggins should retire and stay quiet. West Virginia and the fans will forgive him in time. Yeah, we will, man. But I tell you, he's burning a lot of bridges. It's just the torching of a legacy. The thumbnail says it all. I mean, he could have went off into the sunset, retired, and probably before this season was even out, they would be honoring him in Morgantown.
With one of his three or four best teams on paper ever.
Yeah, and instead, he will probably end up being banned from the facilities. Will probably never get a statue or his name on anything or any of that stuff. Now, it could happen 10, 20 years down the road, but I honestly doubt it, to be honest with you. It's going to be tough because from everything I've read, there are boosters now the boosters, I think a lot of the boosters wanted him out after the phone issue. So the boosters are not the boosters, but the board, a lot of the board members.
The Board of Governors.
Yeah, Board of Governors
according to Hoppy.
They wanted him ousted 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago now.
That's according to Hoppy.
After the slur thing. So they're not going. They didn't. They wanted him gone after this. Now there are probably some. That's okay. There are probably some boosters who are still backing him, I would imagine. But I think even that is getting thinner and thinner at this point.
For sure. And I thought it was interesting that Hoppy said, like, it's almost like there was almost a little bit of a veiled something going on with this, but like he said, and I know Bob Huggins doesn't want this to get to Discovery. And I thought, why would he say that? If he didn't know something, Thanks, Tide Guy. Appreciate you, brother. If he didn't know something, because obviously Hoppy is going to hear things we don't hear. And if Bob Huggins had behavior that was unsavory, let's say it wasn't made public, well, a guy like Hoppy would probably know that. So why is he saying that he doesn't want this to get to Discovery? I just thought that was very interesting that he would make that statement. You don't say, and I know Bob Huggins doesn't want this to get to Discovery. If there's something you don't want to be discovered, or you're making that claim offhandedly, I'd really like to ask Hoppy that question.
Yeah. Tim Treffs, he says the Fitz, which is the Fitzsimmons, the lawyer we were referring to earlier, that's no longer representing Hugs in that case. He says he heard he was still representing Hugs in the DUI case. Now, he may be, because those are, it's a separate matter, separate issue. So he may be. I don't know. I just know that he's not representing him at all in regards to his employment or unemployment or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what to call it at this point. Eugene Burns, man, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. He says a lot of that Final Four team was Beeline's team. A lot of it was.
Sure.
It was probably 50-50, maybe 60-40 Hugs. Deshaun Butler was obviously a Beeline guy. John Flowers was a Beeline guy. Joe Missoula was a Beeline guy.
Yep.
Cam Thurman was a Beeline guy. Ebanks, Kevin Jones, Truck Bryant were all Hugs guys. Dennis Kalichla was on that team. He was a freshman, I think, that year. He was a Hugs guy. So it was a split. Personally, I give him. Obviously, Hugs got him there, but you got to give Beeline credit also for recruiting those guys and helping develop them for the first couple of years of their career. Actually, Cam Thurman was on the Three Guys Before the Game podcast the other day, Paul. If you haven't yet, go back and listen to that, man. Very interesting interview.
Cam Thurman, I saw that.
Yeah, Cam Thurman is working for Marathon Petroleum now in human resources. He's like really high up in their company. Like he's a bigwig, as they say. And he's still really close with Johnny West and actually played golf with Johnny West at one of the top golf resorts in America out in L.A. just a few weeks ago. I mean, he's doing well for himself.
Living
Cam
the
Thurman
life.
is. He is, man. I'm happy for the guy. And he also talked about, I didn't know this, but Cam Thurman came to West Virginia as a scorer, like he was a shooter, and he had so many knee problems or knee injuries. I think it was his knees that he had to totally change his game and turn into a. He basically he said I had to figure out a way to stay on the floor, and the only way I could do that was to do all the other stuff. Set screens, pass the ball well, play defense, rebound, all that stuff. He knew he had to
You
do
got
that
to
in
have
order
a
to stay on the
Thurman
floor.
on every team, man. A Nate Adrian, a Cam Thurman, a Gabe Osaboyan.
Yeah,
Hugs always had that kind of player. It seems like almost every Joe Mazzulla, even though he scored more than normal, those
yeah.
kind of players. And even towards the end of his career, Nate Adrian turned into a really good scorer, and so did Gabe. But a lot of those guys don't start out like that.
Liquid Coast says, I wonder if the discovery actually alludes to some new medical condition. I'm not sure what discovery. Was there the word discovery in one of the letters? Maybe I'm overlooked it.
I think he's probably making the assumption that maybe this goes to discovery in the trial.
Oh,
Like
I
if it
got
goes
you.
to
I got you.
trial,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I got it now. I see what you're saying. Kelsey says, I heard someone talking about how Huggins is in DUI deferment. And if he completes that, the DUI is expunged and like it never happened. That's got a lot to do with this lawsuit. Yeah,
Yeah,
but he was in a. That doesn't change the fact he got arrested for DUI in a West Virginia leased vehicle. That's something everybody keeps glossing over, man. You can't do that. I don't care if you work for West Virginia University, if you work for Marathon Petroleum, if you work for, I don't care who you work for. If you get caught with a DUI driving a company vehicle, you are fired. I mean, you're going to get fired. It doesn't matter who you are. And I don't know why people
I don't,
just can't accept that. But yeah,
right.
thank
And
you
I
for
don't
that.
think Kelsey was trying to make that point. I think he was just making that observation there
Oh, yeah, and I
about
didn't
that.
mean, I know, I just get fired up about it. I wasn't meaning it like
Right.
Kelsey. I just,
I just wanted to make sure he knew it
yeah,
wasn't.
sorry, Kelsey. I wasn't aiming that towards you, man. I've been so tired. I got so aggravated today. There's just some guy on Twitter that just keeps saying, "Well, we need evidence." I haven't seen any hardcore evidence. I'm like, dude, go look at Hoppy Kercheval. Show me links. Show me links. I said, be a big boy and go find it yourself. I mean, it's like, do you remember when Donald Trump made that comment in a speech one time? He said, I could shoot somebody in the middle of whatever street and people would still vote for me.
Yeah.
That's how this Bob Huggins thing makes me think about.
Right.
It's almost
Yeah.
like there's
And it
nothing the
is
guy
just
could
that.
do. There's nothing the guy could do wrong in some people's eyes, and it just irritates the snot out of me because I'm a West Virginia fan. Bob Huggins has only been part of this institution for 20 years, and it's been around since 1867. And people just make it out like he's God or something, man, and it drives me insane. But anyway, I'm off my soapbox now.
It's frustrating. It really is, because he's so revered and loved, and we were part of that crowd, and still am to an extent. I was still always going to have a lot of love for Hugs. But at the same time, my part of my job on this is to try to be objective if I can,
Yeah,
and it's not always easy when it comes to things like this. Now, I can be biased when it comes to my record predictions, when it
hmm
comes to how I think the team is going to do, and all that kind of stuff. I want to be, no
right.
big deal. But when it comes to things of morality, I do try to remain objective because I don't want to let my sports bias
Right,
influence my moral
right,
compass.
right. And look, and I'm not, neither of us are perfect by any stretch of imagination, you know, and we're not trying to say we are. But if I'd done that, I would get fired. I mean, it's just that simple. But Kelsey, legally, I get that, and you're right. Legally, it may be expunged, but but I think this is one of those cases where you can separate the legality of it, and then the fact he probably violated a school policy. He violated a university policy, right? That's
Yeah,
that's because you can the Chris Beard thing, for example. That's a good example here. His charges ended up getting dropped, but it didn't keep him from losing his job. You know, so that's the most recent thing I can compare it to. That's probably in a similar level of if you want to look at morality things, and That's kind of a similar level, I guess. The Northwestern thing's a totally different level, and so is the Penn State thing and all that. Um, but that's just the recent example I can think of. You can get fired without doing something illegal, I guess is my point. Uh, it does matter. If it didn't, shouldn't be a lawsuit. Like that should be tell you right there something is up. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure who he was. Fifth Avenue. Thank you, Liquid Code. That's what Trump said. But yeah, it's just. I mean, it's a sensitive subject. People get passionate about it, like I have, and we want to we want to dig our heels in. But I try to respect everybody's opinion. But man, sometimes it's hard. I just get so. I bleed gold and blue, man, and I loved West Virginia basketball before Bob Huggins ever stepped on the scene, as far as a coach, and it irritates me that people. I mean, I've heard people say I had one guy today. He is the program. We made it to Elite Eights before he got here. Jerry West played for us in the 50s. I mean, how can you say he is the program? I don't get that. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, are you a fan of Huggins or a fan of West Virginia?
Right. I mean, sure. Could he win a lawsuit on this technicality? I mean, maybe it is possible. But to me, it doesn't change the fact morally that he blew a 2-1 and was in the driver's seat. And there's a lot of people that have lost people due to that. So I think a lot of people feel that's why it's such a galvanizing issue, right?
Right. Yeah.
What I don't like about it is that it gets me out of what I'm good at, or at least like better, and that's talking about what's going on the floor, or in the recruiting spectrum, or in whatever it is. I'd much rather be talking about all that. Mm-hmm. I would, if I had it my way, we would lose the subscribers we've gained through this whole thing, and Hugs would be reinstated. That's what I would have, and that it never happened.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality.
Right. Cole D says, I maintain supporting and wanting what's best, and watching Rome burn willingly are two separate things. Yeah, it is, man. We can, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And, I saw a comment in here that they think he's just suing for money. And I've heard that speculation by a lot of people. It's kind of my gut feeling too. He's trying to get some buyout money of some sort here. That's speculation. I don't know his intent, but I mean, you've got to know surely to goodness, he knows deep down he's never getting the job back, right? You would think. So I don't know. But I don't want to speculate either on what his intentions are.
Yeah, right. And what happens legally, what stands legally, and at the end of the day, to me, has no bearing on the theme of this show, and that's a torched legacy.
Yeah.
The legacy is burning to the ground. And unfortunately, and you could say whatever it's for. Is it for money? Is whatever the motive is, the legacy is burning to the ground either way.
Mm-hmm. And Kelsey, that's a good point. He says, I'm still going with this is all about money. He knows he's not going to be the coach again, which is why what legally stands matters. And I've thought about that. And Kelsey, you're probably right there, because if they're forced, let's say they're forced to reinstate him or for whatever reason, and then they fire him with cause, then he probably has a fight, has some kind of justification maybe to sue and get some buyout money, let's just say. Or let's say, or maybe he's just hoping they settle and pay him a little bit money, pay him some money to go away. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Is they're just hoping for some settlement maybe. And at the end of the day, who knows, that may end up happening, because the longer this drags on, the worse it's going to be for the program, the worse it's going to be for the school. The PR, it's bad PR for the school. All that.
And on that, I've heard that Bob Huggins takes care of a lot of people. I don't know this for fact. Don't have any clue. I've just seen it written and speculated about that there's a lot of people on his gravy train, and that even though he's being paid very good to be the head coach at West Virginia, top 10, um, that he may not have as much put back as people think
Mm-hmm.
because of all the people he's been taking care of. But I don't know anything about that. But I just thought it'd be worth mentioning
Yeah.
that maybe he needs this. Maybe he needs some kind of buyout. This all happened so fast and abruptly. Maybe just, you know, financially for him, he's thinking I got 2 or 3 years to make 4 million left, whatever it was, or as long as he wanted it in perpetuity, who knows?
Yeah.
But that's a lot of money to lose for sure.
Yeah, it's not money in his contract. He can only get 1 million. Some, no matter how he leaves, that's the highest he gets. And then I saw where somebody said he deferred
That's
a
a
lot of his
lot.
money. He deferred a lot of money toward the end of his coaching tenure. I did hear that, Jonathan. But the way his contract was set up, he was. That's what. And if that's the case, this makes even less sense because he would be getting a lot of that money anyway, just through his retirement and his severance package. So he is owed more than $1 million plus any maybe health benefits for the rest of his life, like health insurance and stuff like that. That's why. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's baffling. It's all confusing, and I'd say nobody really knows except him and his attorneys. But as far as what their intentions are here, I'm sure Huggins
That
does take care.
part's really sad.
Yeah, I'm sure Huggins does take care of a lot of people. I read he's raised over 18 million for the basketball team. That probably does make him feel like he's owed. Yeah, and that'd be human nature, right? If you've done so much for a specific entity and you feel like that entity is not treating you fairly, you know, I'm sure that plays a role here too. There's probably some pride, some ego,
Absolutely.
and I'm not
Expectations.
expectations, and I'm not bashing him for that. That's just human nature, you know. Uh,
Yeah. Expectations lead to resentments.
mhm.
Expectations not being fulfilled lead to resentments.
Yeah, right, exactly, and that could be a part of it. I've seen some other people make that comment, and it makes sense because he did. It's my understanding he pretty much had to raise a lot of the money on his own because he wasn't getting the support he felt like he should have from
That's why
the
Rich Rod
administration.
left and the whole lot.
Yeah, it's probably why Holgerson made the comment he made that Houston cared more about winning than West Virginia did, which is a whole nother conversation.
Looks like the uppercut. Yeah.
I don't have anything against him, man. He's just honest. He's just one of these guys that doesn't filter his words very well. Tim says, look for a news article about Jerry West comes to save West Virginia. Headline might be off through Marietta Times. It's a super feel good article about being a West Virginian.
Mm.
Interesting. I'll have to look that
Hey,
up.
guys, we got 87 in here. If you haven't liked the video yet, give us a like, please, if you like it. If you haven't subscribed to Hoops from the Hills, we'd certainly appreciate a subscription from you. This is the kind of content you'll get. We go live pretty often here now. We're trying to nail down a specific day of the week to do so that you guys will have something to look forward to. Um, and also leave a comment if you're watching this after the fact. It still helps feed the YouTube algorithm and get us out to a wider audience. Believe it or not, a lot of people care about West Virginia basketball, and it's kind of been the center of college basketball for the last month and a half, 2 months
Right.
now. So a lot of people are interested in this scenario.
Yeah.
Um,
And were it not for the Northwestern story, it probably would have been the big story there, early in the week.
Kind of grateful for that, though.
Yeah.
Really needed to get it, because people can say what they want about the brand value of the university. We've been damaged bad.
Yeah.
The last thing we needed was the basketball to go off the rails, and it went off the rails. And so listen, Neil Brown has got a chance to really walk into a Don Neyland type scenario here as far as how revered he could eventually be. If he turns this thing around, and I hate to get off the basketball, but just talking about the program as a whole, he's really got a chance to, man, just be the hero.
Leave his mark. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was alluding to in my video I did yesterday. It went, I mean, it wasn't specifically talking, it was talking about, if they could beat Penn State, pull off a
There's a
huge
video
upset,
idea.
how much it'll take our minds off of all this crap, and he has a chance to really make an impact with that, just with that one game. Dutch Miller Auto guys, don't forget, if when you're shopping for your next vehicle, go check those folks out. They have locations throughout the state of West Virginia, as well as Charlotte, Bristol, and El Dorado, Kansas. So, go check out Dutch Miller. Let them know you heard about it right here on Hoops from the Hills or Couz's Corner or Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. They're sponsoring us on all 3 channels. So, please support our sponsor guys. They've been kind enough to support us. Let's try to support them if we can. So, guys, and remember, if you want to, another way you can support us is to drop a super chat. Down at the bottom, it'll either say something, or maybe it'll just say comment. There's a little dollar sign there. You can hit that dollar sign and make a one-time donation. It'll highlight your comment, make sure we see it. And it's a way you can just, help us out here on the show. Show us you like what we do and support us here. Billy Watts says, I went through an extremely similar situation as Hugs. If he takes the FMLA route, as I did, he will be coach again. If you know about FMLA, then you will understand the entire situation.
Well, maybe you can explain that, because
federal something leave act. I can't remember what the M stands for. David Cummings, thank you for the super chat, my friend. He says $10 super chat. He says the situation in Morgantown is a total shit show. A lot of things need to change before it gets better. These are dark days for Mountaineer fans. Absolutely, man. It is. And, somebody made a comment on my football video, says, this is not going to help recruits. You're saying the program's broken. I said, I'm not saying it's broken. That's what the national media is saying.
Yeah,
it's not me. The whole country is saying it.
Like you're the straw that broke the camel's back with that.
Right. Well, I mean, he was. I asked him. I said, "Look, man," I said, "I'm not the one saying it." He said, "Yeah, but those platforms aren't as good as yours, or something like that." Which he was complimenting me. But
weird way to compliment you.
When I
take it anywhere you can get it. Huh?
When we're off of here, I'll tell you who it is, and you'll understand. But he's a loyal supporter, so I appreciate him, even though I disagree with a lot of his takes. I really appreciate his support. So,
is there a color in his name?
No.
No.
There's an animal though. Liquid. I meant to highlight David's comment again. David, thank you again for the comment, man. You've been a big supporter on all 3 of our channels, and we really appreciate you, man. Appreciate the super chat. It means a lot to us. 1 month, 3 weeks until September 2nd is the good or bad news. Yeah, could be either way. I'm excited about it, man. Look, I look at it as an opportunity, and I had originally planned to try to go to that game, and then I kind of changed my mind. But it's just such a long drive. But I think I'll just watch it from the couch.
And it's either going to be a really long drive back, or it's going to be a long drive back either way. But are you on a high or a low?
Yeah, that's when you weigh out the chances, right? You put the scales of winning versus losing. We're going to be huge underdogs in that game,
right?
And you get, and there's no hiding behind that. Not saying
they've actually got less experience at quarterback than we do. At least
they do.
More talent.
Bob Huggins has no chance of getting his job back. That's pretty much what everybody's saying, John. But that's what we were talking earlier. I think my gut is they have other motives than that. Family Medical Leave Act. There it is. Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993. And I think that's the angle. I've heard some people talk about, going to rehab and all that. That the university should have allowed him to do that instead of just kicking him out. They should have tried to help him. And I think that's true. But what I think, and I'm no lawyer, so I don't know, but this is just my gut feeling. Because he had already made that big error 6 weeks earlier, and they had already put him on a zero tolerance policy. It's if this had been his only
kind of superseded that.
Correct. Had it been his only offense, I think they might have went that route, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they had much of a choice, because when they stood
and
up,
they were so close together.
When they stood up, yes, exactly. When they stood up and said, one more mistake and he's done, you left yourself no choice at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, could they have
handled
could they have handled it differently? Maybe by suspending him for a while until they investigated everything, kind of like Texas did with Beard. Give it a couple weeks instead of it was rumored that they only gave him 30 minutes to make the decision. I'm sure there are things West Virginia could have done better, guys. I'm not trying to say that they've been perfect through this whole thing, But at the end of the day, had he not done what he did, we wouldn't even be here talking about it. So it's kind of hard to place blame on anybody else.
Right. Everybody's made mistakes, but it's been an impossible scenario. It's like people want to throw shade at Ren Baker for how he handled the coaching search and the whole thing, and let the players decide whether or not he'd hired D-line or whatever you want to think. But I would say in history, there may not have been a tougher start to an athletic director's tenure than what Ren Baker's had to go through in history. Maybe there's one or two, but he's certainly been up against it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely walked into a hornet's nest, that's for sure. I've been seeing jokes and stuff on Twitter. He'll be entering the transfer portal.
People call him Stimpy, man. That makes me mad, man.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, like from Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, I get it. That's just dumb. People need to grow up. Jonathan Palmer says WVU initially should put him on suspension pending the outcome of the deal. Yeah, like I said,
I'd have been okay with that.
There's ways they could have handled it differently, I'm sure. But like I said, when they stood up, I think their error may have been when they stood up and said, "Hey, he's on a zero tolerance policy."
Yeah, then you're held to that.
They almost had no choice at that point. They painted themselves into that corner. To me, if they've done that may have been their major hiccup. And I've seen some people too, and this is a logical argument. How many coaches in the country would have been allowed? Bob Huggins' last 5 years have not been very good. Let's face it. Okay.
Right.
A lot of coaches would have been fired already just for lack of performance. We got to think about that, guys. But because he's Bob Huggins and had such a track record of success earlier and was so loved by everybody, he had a longer leash as far as wins and losses go than most coaches did. But, I mean, he had a losing record over the past several years in the Big 12. Not much different than Neil Brown's, to be honest. So,
good point.
And that may have been taken into consideration, too. Let's not forget that. There, Bill Young, you hit the nail on the head. You can also get fired for making $5 million a year and being mediocre. And that's the argument a lot of people are making. Not saying I agree with that, but it's a logical argument. I'm a little. It was hard for me to root against Bob Huggins and want him fired because I love the guy so much and still do, to be honest.
Right.
I still do. I just don't love him more than the university, if that makes sense.
The state
and the program and the state. That's I'm not going to put him.
And I think he would understand that.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the day, down to brass tacks, I think Hugs would understand that. But most fans are not going to choose him over. Well, some fans are not going to choose the state over him over the state.
Yeah. Johnson says by choosing suspension, they would have closed some major legal loopholes. And I have no idea. I can't even comment on that because I would have no idea what to even say there. I'll take your word for it, and you're probably right. I'm sure the loopholes would have been different. Luke says, what if he does get his job back? I think most fans will take him back happily. I don't know about happily.
It would be a media shitstorm.
It would be.
It would be.
See, here's the problem. The university can't afford to just pay him to go away. I'm not really, unless there's a donor that steps up and says, "Hey, look, I'll give you $3 million to give Bob Huggins just to make him go away so we can move on." And that could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't, but I don't know if that's what he wants. Maybe he doesn't want that. Huggins had a long leash at WVU over his record, 35-54 the last 5 years of the conference. Yeah, I had seen that somewhere. I just couldn't remember it. I didn't want to try to espouse it off the top of my head. They made the tournament most years. That is the end goal, and that's true. But and that's another thing I used to argue with people that said they wanted him fired because he hadn't been meeting expectations. He's the one that set the expectations, though. That's what's crazy. Like he was basically going against his own expectations that he set. Right? How do you fire a guy for that? I mean,
Yeah.
he's the one who set the bar. So how can you fire the guy who set the bar? It's like people talk about Matt Campbell at Iowa State. Matt Campbell is the best coach that's been at Iowa State in my lifetime. Yes, he's had a couple underachieving seasons, but you can't. He's overachieved most of his career there. You know what I'm saying? So you can't fire him for having a couple underachieving seasons when he's underachieving based on his own expectations. Jacob, thank you for the super chat, man. It's what happens. He gets a coaching job at Big 12 school, and you know what? I wouldn't put it past him to do that. The problem is, and that's another thing. And Joe, actually, my conversation with Joey last night, he and I talked about this. Not only is he burning bridges at West Virginia, he's burning bridges nationally. What school would hire him now? He could have went off, set out a year, went to rehab, got better, did what he needed to do. And he could have applied for the job at West Virginia again when it came open at the end of the season, number one, right? And number two, he could have looked for a job at another school. But how many schools are going to be willing to hire him now after he did this to his previous employer? Think about that. If you're a school, do you want to hire a guy who just sued his last employer? Do you want to deal with that? I wouldn't. So I think he's burnt those bridges too, Jacob. But that is a good comment, and we appreciate the super chat, man.
Right.
But he's burnt he's burnt every bridge imaginable at this point, just about.
At this point.
Yep. And it's sad. It really is. David Cummings says, 35 years being a Mountaineer fan, and I finally come to this conclusion. We are never going to win big. It's like a bad dream you keep having. I'm getting old and tired of watching this shit go down. Yeah, it's me and Paul talk about it all the time, man. Sometimes it's hard to think we're not cursed. It really is. It's crazy, the bad luck. I was listening to a video today about the 13-9 game and how that whole thing went down. Pitt played 8-man box, dude. They played an 8-man box the entire game, and Rich wouldn't throw the football.
And Pat was hurt.
And Pat McAfee missed 2 kicks in one game and hadn't missed a kick in like over a month.
Yeah.
I mean, inside 50 yards. I mean, it was just a crazy night, man. It's like anything that could go wrong went wrong, you know? And that's almost like been the story of our entire existence. Of course, I say that. I just did a video yesterday about major upsets West Virginia's pulled off in their. So it's it's not always been that way. We're living in the moment, I guess, a little bit. But we're fans. That's what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, prisoner of the moment. Yeah, I mean, it's that's a lot of it.
We were 28-point underdogs against Georgia, and we beat them.
Yeah, we've had our moments for sure. No doubt about it.
Yep. Let's say he waits until the end of the year. I think Huggins knows he was never coming back, regardless. Probably so. But yeah, well, Paul, is there anything else you want to talk about, man, before we jump off of here? We've been on here over an hour.
Nope.
I think we've covered.
I'm good to go. I've got to record. I've got to go record another video.
Well, you do that, man. Everybody, we appreciate you coming in the chat room. We appreciate your support. Those of you who are just watching and listening, we appreciate you. All of that stuff helps the channel. Watching, commenting, leaving hitting the thumbs up button, subscribing to the channel. It all helps the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for those of you who have dropped super chats. If you want to drop, if you want to drop us another super chat before we're out of here, get your comment in. If you had something that's really been on your chest and you wanted to get off your chest, drop it in the super chat. We'll be sure to read it. For our OnlyFans, yeah. you don't want to see that, man. Oh, liquid code, you made. I needed that today, man. Needed that. Reminder, guys. For those of you who only keep up with me here on this channel, may not see me next week. I'm gonna be on vacation with the family. So it's gonna be up to Paul to hold the fort down here at Hoops from the Hills next week. Big Dan T jumping on, man, with a $19.99 super chat. Dan, we thank you, buddy. Appreciate your support. He says, trust me, this whole thing is not over. He has a very good chance to end up however he wants. Let's just say, while, yes, he screwed up, the way WVU went about it left him a lot of choices, and Gee is a cancer. I don't disagree with that. I really don't. There's been enough mistakes to go around here. And I do think Gordon Gee's time at West Virginia is near an end. To be honest with you, it probably should be, just based on not just the sports stuff, but just the university's situation as a whole. I mean,
His age.
they're looking to cut departments, man. I've heard they're looking to get rid of several engineering programs from West Virginia. I mean, that's a big deal, man.
Really appreciate that super chat, Big Dan T.
But
Thanks, man.
We appreciate your support, man. Valerie Petrie, $4.99. I don't see a comment there, but we really appreciate the support, Valerie. Thanks to all you for being here for us and with us and supporting the channel. She says, enjoy your vacation, and Paul, keep up the good work when he is off. Thanks for all you do.
I will do that.
Thank you, Valerie, for the super chat. Thank you to all the Big Dan T again. All of you who left super chats. We thank you all for joining the chat, joining the show. We will see you next time, and we are out.